The lobby glistened like a cathedral of glass and marble, its golden chandeliers casting a soft glow on the polished floors. The Manhattan skyline peered in through the massive windows of the Langford Royale Hotel, one of New York City's most elite. Guests moved like whispers, elegant, distant, precise. And then the doors opened and in stepped Gisele Bündchen. Draped in a casual white blouse, her honey gold hair loose around her shoulders, Gisele walked with the grace that had made her an icon on runways across the globe. But today, she was not here for cameras. She needed quiet, rest. A moment to breathe before the gala she was to attend the next evening. She approached the front desk with a soft smile. "Hi, I have a reservation." Gisele Bündchen. Behind the desk stood Gerald Whitmore, the hotel manager. Tall, silver-haired and always immaculately dressed, Gerald prided himself on discretion and order. He also prided himself on deciding who belonged in his establishment. And though he recognized the name instantly, he barely looked up. "Yes, one moment," he said curtly, tapping on his keyboard. After a pause, he peered at her as if seeing her for the first time, his expression unimpressed. "Ah, yes, I see. Well, it seems there may have been a clerical issue." She frowned slightly. "Clerical issue. The suite you reserved appears to have been reassigned. We'll put you in a deluxe room for now. Standard amenities." "I booked the ambassador suite weeks ago," Gisele replied, voice calm but firm. Gerald arched an eyebrow. "Perhaps next time you could have your assistant confirm it more promptly." There was no assistant. Gisele had made the arrangements herself. Before we dive deeper, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more gripping real-life dramas and powerful celebrity moments like this one. She hesitated. "I was told the suite was confirmed." Gerald offered a tight smile. "Yes, well, our high-profile guests sometimes have misunderstandings. Enjoy your stay." No bellhop was summoned. No apology was given. Gisele was handed a keycard and left to make her way alone. The elevator's polished doors closed around her, and as she stared at her reflection in the mirror-like interior, something inside her sank. It wasn't the downgrade. It was the tone, the condescension, the assumption that she no longer mattered. On the ground floor, Lena, a young receptionist who had silently watched the exchange, glanced nervously at Gerald. "You know who that was, right?" she whispered after Gisele had gone. Gerald sniffed. "Of course I do. Another faded starlet expecting to be treated like royalty." Meanwhile, upstairs, Gisele entered the room. It was lovely, but not what she'd reserved. The air smelled faintly of bleach. The view was obstructed by scaffolding, and the ambient noise of street traffic bled through the windows. She sat down slowly on the edge of the bed, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. She was used to scrutiny, even criticism. But this was something else, an open dismissal. That evening, in a suite not meant for her, she called Tom. His voice was warm, grounding. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine, just tired." "Want me to come early?" She smiled faintly. No, just rest. I'll see you tomorrow." She didn't mention what had happened, but someone else would. The morning sun filtered through grey Manhattan clouds as the Langford Royale's lobby buzzed with the polite murmurs of the city's elite. Gisele emerged from the elevator, sunglasses shielding her eyes, her stride elegant but slower than usual. She passed guests whispering behind cappuccino cups, their glances curious. The tension from the previous day still hung in the air, unspoken but palpable. Gerald Whitmore stood near the reception desk, clipboard in hand, speaking to a concierge in clipped tones. He saw her but did not acknowledge her. If anything, he seemed annoyed she was still there. "Good morning," she said with gentle civility as she passed. Gerald barely nodded. "Miss Bündchen." The young receptionist, Lena, flinched at the coldness. She had spent the night feeling a gnawing guilt. Gisele had been nothing but gracious, and yet Gerald had treated her like a nuisance. Lena glanced at Miles, the bellhop, who leaned silently against the brass luggage cart nearby. Their eyes met. Miles gave a tiny shake of his head. Gisele stepped outside to take a breath of fresh air. The city's sounds washed over her. Horns, footsteps, life in motion. She pulled her coat closer and walked along the sidewalk, needing space to clear her thoughts. Back in the lobby, a ripple of excitement passed through the staff. A black SUV pulled up to the curb, and a man stepped out. Tall, composed, and wearing a dark peacoat, Tom Brady entered the hotel with the unmistakable presence of someone used to commanding attention. But his first instinct was to look around, not for cameras, but for her. He spotted Lena at the desk. "Hi, I'm looking for my wife." "Gisele Bündchen?" Lena blinked. "Yes, she's staying with us. Welcome, Mr. Brady." From across the lobby, Gerald approached quickly, wearing a smile that hadn't appeared the day before. "Ah, Mr. Brady, what a pleasure. Welcome to the Langford Royale." Tom offered a brief handshake, his smile polite but restrained. "Thanks. Is Gisele around?" "She just stepped out. I'm sure she'll return shortly." "If there's anything you need, please let us know," Gerald said smoothly, then added, "We've ensured she's comfortable." Tom nodded but sensed something odd in the man's tone. He didn't press it. Later in the suite, Gisele returned, surprised and pleased to find him there early. He embraced her tightly. "I thought I'd come spend the day with you," he said. She smiled. "I'm glad." As they settled into the room, he looked around. "This isn't what you booked, is it?" She hesitated. "No, it's fine. There was an issue." His gaze sharpened. "What kind of issue?" "It doesn't matter, really." Tom knew her well enough to sense when something did matter. Downstairs, Miles lingered in the service corridor, heart pounding. He hadn't slept well either. Watching Gisele be treated so poorly, and knowing it wasn't the first time Gerald had acted that way, left a sour taste. When he saw Tom pass by later in the day, heading toward the cafe lounge, Miles made a decision. "Excuse me, sir," he said quietly. Tom turned. "Yes? I work here. I saw what happened yesterday. I just thought you should know. Your wife was treated badly. Real badly." "The manager? He was rude. Not just rude, disrespectful." Tom's jaw tightened. He listened closely, saying nothing as Miles recounted the coldness, the dismissiveness, the deliberate downgrade. And in that moment, something shifted in Tom Brady's eyes. Not rage, not indignation, focus. The lounge was quiet, a place of hushed voices and delicate china. Morning light poured through tall windows, glinting off crystal decanters and silver trays. Tom sat alone at a corner table, fingers laced in front of him, gaze fixed on the entrance. A waiter offered him coffee. He declined. He was waiting for someone. Gerald Whitmore arrived precisely at 10, always punctual, always poised. His expression changed slightly when he saw Tom waiting. "Mr. Brady," he said with a crisp nod, approaching. "How may I assist you today?" Tom gestured toward the chair opposite him. "Sit." Gerald's eyes flickered, caught off guard by the command, but he obeyed, his movements measured. Tom leaned forward. "I know what happened yesterday. My wife didn't tell me. One of your staff did, and I want to hear your version." Gerald folded his hands. "Mr. Brady, I assure you, your wife was treated with the utmost professionalism. There may have been a scheduling error regarding the suite, but she was offered an excellent alternative." "That's not what I heard," Tom said quietly. "What I heard was that you questioned her legitimacy, dismissed her, and humiliated her in front of staff and guests." "I simply enforced hotel policy," Gerald replied. "We can't cater to every celebrity who expects red carpet treatment." Tom's eyes narrowed slightly. "You didn't see her as a guest. You saw her as someone who didn't deserve respect." Gerald bristled. "That's an unfair characterization." "No," Tom said, voice calm but cutting. "What's unfair is thinking that someone's relevance or worth is measured by how many headlines they're in this month." Gerald opened his mouth to respond, but Tom continued. "You looked at my wife, a woman who has spent decades working harder than most, who has lifted others up, who's never acted entitled, and you decided she was beneath your attention." The room had gone still. Other guests nearby were listening. Waitstaff paused at a distance. The air was thick with tension. "I'm not here for apologies," Tom said. "I'm here because you made her feel small." "And no one makes her feel small." Across the room, Gisele had just entered. She stopped in the doorway, uncertain. Then she saw Tom and understood. Slowly, she walked toward them. Gerald rose quickly. "Mrs. Bündchen." She raised a hand gently, stopping him. "Don't." Her voice was steady, low, but it carried. "I came here for rest. I didn't ask for special treatment. I asked for respect. You decided I didn't deserve that I was just noise." Gerald shifted, suddenly aware of the growing attention. "You may think it doesn't matter how you speak to someone, but it does," she said, "because how you treat people, especially when no one's watching, shows who you really are." Her words rippled through the lounge like the echo of a bell. Tom stood beside her, his hand on her back. "You treated her like she didn't belong here, but she belongs wherever she walks into, because she carries herself with dignity, more than most ever will." Miles stood at the edge of the lounge, watching. Lena had joined him, eyes wide. And slowly, a few guests began to applaud, soft, tentative, but growing. Gerald turned pale. From the far side of the room, a sharply dressed woman stepped forward. Eleanor Langford, the owner of the hotel. She had arrived quietly and witnessed the entire exchange. "Mr. Whitmore," she said coolly. "My office? Now." Gerald Whitmore stood frozen, the clapping behind him fading into a thick, stunned silence. Eleanor Langford's voice had been clear, sharp as crystal. Her presence shifted the energy in the room like a sudden gust of wind. The owner of the Langford Royal Hotel did not make public appearances often. When she did, it was for matters of great importance. "This isn't necessary," Gerald muttered, attempting to collect himself. "I was merely ensuring standards were—" "Now," Eleanor repeated with finality. Without another word, Gerald followed her out of the lounge, his gait stiffer than usual. Tom remained still, his hand gently resting on Gisele's back. She leaned into the warmth of his presence, heart pounding, not from fear, but from release. For once, someone had spoken the words she never dared to voice out loud. Not just someone, Tom, her partner, her anchor. The other guests who had witnessed the confrontation murmured quietly. Some nodded in agreement. A man in a tailored suit stepped forward. "Mrs. Bündchen," he said respectfully, "that was powerful. I'm sorry you were treated that way." Another woman added, "I've stayed here for years. I've never seen anyone stand up like that. Thank you." Gisele offered a soft smile. "Thank you both." "I appreciate your kindness." At the front desk, Lena's hands trembled slightly as she placed a call to housekeeping. Miles approached them, nervous but determined. "I just wanted to say thank you, both of you, for standing up." Tom looked at him. "No, thank you. You spoke up when it mattered." Miles nodded, then returned to his post with a quiet pride he hadn't felt in years. Minutes later, Eleanor returned alone. "Mrs. Bündchen, Mr. Brady," she said, addressing them with warmth, "I want to extend my deepest apologies for the treatment you received. Mr. Whitmore will no longer be with us." Gisele's eyes widened slightly. She hadn't expected this level of accountability. "We hold our staff to the highest standard," Eleanor continued. "But more importantly, we believe in dignity and respect, values you exemplified today." Tom extended a hand. "Thank you for stepping in." She shook it firmly. "I'll personally ensure your move to the ambassador's suite, as originally arranged. Please accept our stay as complimentary." "We don't need that," Gisele said softly. "We only wanted to be treated fairly." Eleanor smiled. "And you will be from now on." Later that afternoon, in the grandeur of the restored ambassador's suite, Gisele stood by the window, looking out over Central Park. The skyline was brushed with golden light, and below, the city moved without pause. Tom stepped beside her, holding 2 cups of tea. "You okay?" She nodded. "I think so." "You know," he said, handing her the cup, "you didn't have to say anything back there, but I'm glad you did." "I've been quiet about things like this for too long," she murmured. "It's not just about me. It's about what people think they can get away with." Tom leaned down and kissed the top of her head. "Well, you showed them otherwise." Outside the suite, a knock came. Lena, with a small note and a white envelope. It was from a guest who'd witnessed everything. The note read, "Thank you for reminding us what grace looks like under pressure and what love looks like when it speaks out loud." Gisele folded the paper quietly, a soft light in her eyes. Sometimes the smallest gestures leave the deepest impact. The next morning, the hotel lobby felt transformed. Gone was the cold, rigid atmosphere that once mirrored Gerald Whitmore's demeanor. In its place lingered a new energy, softer, humbler, and full of quiet admiration. News of the incident had traveled fast. Within hours, whispers turned to online posts. By the next day, headlines had begun to circulate. Grace under fire. Gisele Bündchen responds to disrespect with poise. Tom Brady stuns guests with powerful defense of wife after hotel snub. Langford Royale manager dismissed after public showdown. The hotel's official account posted a formal apology addressed to both Gisele and Tom, acknowledging the mishandling of the situation and pledging to re-evaluate its staff training and hospitality values. But Gisele wasn't focused on headlines. She sat curled up on the suite's plush armchair, a book resting on her lap, her gaze out the window as snow began to fall gently over the city. Tom walked in carrying breakfast, setting the tray down with a boyish smile. "Room service actually smiled this time," he joked. She laughed softly. "You think they're scared of you now? Maybe just..." "Impressed," he replied, nudging her shoulder. "Seriously though, I'm proud of you." She looked at him, eyes tender. "I'm proud of you. You didn't have to do what you did." "Of course I did," he said. "I meant what I said down there. You walk into any room with dignity. If someone can't see that, that's on them." She took his hand and held it. "It's not just about me. Gerald, he's probably been treating people like that for years. I just happened to be the one who finally said something. You were the right one," Tom said, "because when you speak, people listen." That evening, they attended the gala together. Cameras flashed, but the moment that made the rounds was not the fashion nor the speeches. It was a short, unscripted clip of Tom kissing Gisele's hand, whispering something into her ear, and her smile lighting up the entire room. It was reposted with captions like, "Love is speaking up when it counts. Real power is protecting grace." Back at the hotel, Lena and Miles received commendations. Lena was promoted to guest relations, while Miles was given a scholarship to pursue his hospitality degree. Eleanor Langford kept her word. The Langford Royale changed too, not just in policy, but in tone. A memo circulated among the staff. "Let no one leave our doors feeling lesser than when they arrived." On their last morning in New York, Gisele and Tom stood by the window one final time. The sky was pale blue, the city stretching endlessly beneath it. "Ready to head home?" he asked. She nodded. "Yeah, but I'm glad we came." He smiled. "Me too." As they packed, the note from the guest, "Thank you for reminding us what grace looks like under pressure," fell from her suitcase. She picked it up, folded it carefully, and slipped it into her journal. Some stories don't need retelling. They simply live, in quiet gestures, in moments when love becomes a shield and respect becomes a stand. If this moment inspired you, don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that show the power of love, respect, and resilience. Click the video on your screen now to witness another unforgettable moment that will move you to your core.